Do you think it would be a good idea to add to the committee?
Well, absolutely. We have positions for 13 people, and I hope we can ultimately get all of them. It adds to the committee's participation to have as many members as we can to participate. I'm looking forward in the long run to try to have as many of the 13 members that I can. But right now, we're preparing for the hearing for next Tuesday.
Hi, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in the East. I'm Michael Steele in for Nicolle Wallace, so buckle up. January 6th, House Select Committee Chairman Benny Thompson looking forward to the next step in the investigation as questions swirl over the remaining 5 spots on the committee. One still open after Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy yanked all of his picks yesterday. Sources tell NBC News Congressman Adam Kinzinger is possibly under consideration to fill one of those spots. And although Thompson said he is the kind of person they want to have on the committee, no official announcement has been made. Also reportedly under consideration, former GOP Congressman Denver Riggleman, who would serve as an advisor to the committee and is currently meeting with the Speaker in her offices. In fact, he was supposed to be with us here on set to talk, but his meeting apparently is running long. Riggleman and Kinzinger alike have been very outspoken about their party's role in propagating the big lie that lies at the heart of the Capitol insurrection. And that's where we begin this hour. Joining us now, former Congresswoman Donna Edwards, Washington Post contributing columnist and MSNBC contributor, Sam Stein, White House editor for Politico, as well as an MSNBC contributor. Welcome to you both. So, Donna, let's start with you. The exact point of appointing Banks and Jordan, right, were to undermine the committee's very goal, right? So we get what that was all about. What do you make of Speaker Pelosi calling McCarthy's bluff on this whole thing, and what should she do next?
Well, I think she decided rightly that she was not going to have this committee turn into a circus act. And clearly, the appointment of Jordan, he's demonstrated his behavior in the past, and certainly Banks, whose statements following his appointment just showed that he was going to turn it into a sideshow. And I think that Speaker Pelosi just decided enough of that. They had an opportunity, the Republicans did, for a bipartisan commission. They bailed on that. They sabotaged it. And now this is what they get. They're going to get a committee that's going to focus on the facts, bring witnesses in front of them, including material witnesses potentially like Jim Jordan, who was going to sit in judgment when he's a material witness. It's kind of ridiculous. So I think that she's on the right track here. And, now it's time for the committee to just put their heads down and get the work done.
I have to admit, Congresswoman, it was a smart power move. I loved it. It was the kind of thing that I think a number of people have been waiting to see if Democrats really had the gumption to do it, and she showed they did. Sam, I'd like you to take a listen to Eric Swalwell on this network last night.
This is so binary right now. Either you're trying to resurrect and revive democracy or you're trying to kill it, that when people say to me, well, Liz Cheney, I don't agree with her on, where she stands on abortion or where she stands on taxes. I say, well, give me the problem that democracy is around in 3 years, that we can have that debate with her. But right now, she is standing up for democracy. So we need her. Same thing to Adam Kinzinger. And so, yes, we need to move swiftly right now. And having Jim Jordan on the committee just for the sake of, quote unquote, bipartisanship, I don't think that goes to saving democracy.
So here's the question to you, Sam. Do you think the serious work that needs to get done here can still go on without Republicans on the committee? And maybe, in fact, this adds more to the credibility that everyone hopes this committee has?
Well, let me start off by saying I'm sorry I'm not Denver Riggleman. I am not as important a guest as he is, but I will do the best I can. I think, in fact, to your point, I think it's actually probably helps the committee in terms of getting its work product done to not have members like Banks and Jordan on it. They were there, obviously to throw wrenches in the processes. I mean, they were there to run interference for Trump. I don't think that's a crazy statement to make. The question comes now, does the credibility of the committee become in any way diminished because Pelosi has exercised her veto power over these members. And I think ultimately what will, the answer to that question is not determined in a decision Pelosi made yesterday. It's determined in the work product that they produce. If they get primary documentation, if they get records of phone calls, if they get witnesses to testify in unimpeachable ways, ultimately the public will say, yes, this is a credible outcome. And it doesn't matter if she vetoed Banks and Jordan from being on the committee. What matters is what was discovered.
I'd like to bring to our conversation Jake Sherman, founder of Punchbowl News and an MSNBC political contributor. Jake, you're up there on the Hill. You got all the clatter and noise around you. Give us a take of what you're hearing. What's the latest that you're picking up on the Hill?
Well, I'm also not Denver Riggleman, and I'm also not Sam Stein. So I apologize.
No, you're not.
I apologize, or Donna Edwards for that matter. I apologize for all those things. Listen, I think of a few things. There's a lot to unpack here. Number one, if McCarthy wanted a committee, and I've said this to him, I've said this in press conferences, if he wanted a committee that he had a say on, he could have worked to create this committee that the Senate rejected that he had a say on. Meaning, the real way, let's take the most cynical point of view, which may or may not be true. I'll let you guys decide that Republicans are going to just strictly run interference for Donald Trump. A lot of people would say that. They had the opportunity to do that because they had veto power over subpoenas on that committee that Nancy Pelosi had tried to pass, that passed through the House and got stopped in the Senate. So, that would have been a really good way for McCarthy to have control. Republicans got rid of that. Banks and Jordan, I mean, listen, I have no idea whether this will lead to a more productive committee or not. Republicans have said they want to discover why the Capitol was not well protected on that day. Of course, the National Guard is mostly in the purview of the President of the United States. So that's one thing to chew over. I do think, though, that Pelosi is going to, I would have to imagine, is going to try to put another Republican on this panel. The only other Republican who would be willing, I have to imagine, is Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. And listen, I think we wrote this in Punchbowl News this morning. Both Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Republicans have mostly, if not completely, written them off. Do not think they're going to either run for re-election. If they run, they believe they're going to lose resoundingly. Because as Michael, you and I have talked about so many times on the air, this is a Republican Party that is not interested in people, a Republican electorate that is not interested in people that do not have and that do not express fealty and support and complete support for Donald Trump. Still a party that supports Donald Trump 95 or 90%, depending on the poll. So I think those are the dynamics, and the House has just turned into a food fight. And listen, I'll say this one last thing before I stop rambling here. Kevin McCarthy is driven right now by one dynamic. He believes that he's going to take back the House of Representatives in 2022 based on a wealth of about 100 years of evidence about midterm elections in the first term of a president. We'll have to see if that holds true. He believes that Republicans are only 5 seats away from that. Redistricting helps them, and they believe that there are a lot of Democrats in soft seats that they could knock off. So everything he is trying to do is based on that goal, straight ahead toward Election Day and to win back the House of Representatives. Everything he does is guided by that principle and by that goal.
So Donna, I think Jake kind of lays out the script for Republicans very accurately. And so that means, are the Democrats doing enough right now? They have said that nothing less than our democracy is at stake. What should be, the goal here? What should we be seeing from them right now? Should these committees be hearing, for example, these committee hearings be broadcast at prime time? Make it must-see viewing. Engage the public in a way that they appreciate the narrative that they're trying to create.
Well, look, I think, first of all, I think House Democrats have been standing in the gap for the last 5.5 years through the Trump years and now. And I think that they intend to get to the truth. And, it would be great if these were broadcast during prime time. Obviously, the networks have control over that. But I think people will be watching. They'll be watching in whatever ways they get their their news, because I think the American public is interested in getting some of these answers as well. And the testimony beginning next week with the police officers, I think is going to be very, very compelling for Democrats to be able to present as a starting point of this investigation. And I think there is a way to conduct the committee's inquiry so that when the public does get the final product, they're not going to ask whether it was produced by Democrats or Republicans. They're going to say this was produced by Americans who want to protect democracy. And so I'm actually confident that Americans are going to be tuning in whatever way they get their information to the hearings that are going to start next week.